We're talking about an extinction level event. We're talking about mankind as we know it ceasing to exist. And yet this is barely being discussed at all. And when we do talk about it, the experts quickly come along and tell you, no, that's all wrong. We're fine. We're good. Worry about climate change. Worry about the far right. That's the thing that should be worrying you, not humanity going extinct by 2080. No, that's not important. Folks, this is crucial. I'll show you 5 numbers. This is objective data that you cannot argue against. Before I go on, as always, if you haven't got them already, do get Street Survival Skills and Surviving the Economic Collapse. Both of these will hugely help you in your preparation, especially as this continues to go on. And what I'm doing right now, honestly, I'm thinking on my kids, my grandkids. I will live to see all of this affect the world in which we live in to a great extent. So will you, unless, if you're maybe 70, 80 years old, maybe you won't see it as much. But if you're somewhat of my same age, you will see a lot of the consequences of this in your lifetime. This is not all that far away. This is already happening. So let's get to this. And I'll go back to what the article from Business Insider has to say in terms of the counter argument that, oh no, this is not really all that bad. And you'll see how much bullshit that is. You will see for yourself how you're being gaslit. Let's start with this one. Japan, right? And I'll use mainstream left-wing, elites kind of media outlets. I'm not using anything radical here. I'm not using alt sites, anything that could be considered like, oh, this is a right-wing media. No, this is CNN, Guardian. This is mainstream left-wing as it gets. Okay, CNN, Japan says 1 in 10 residents are age 80 or above as nation turns gray. They're getting old. 1 in 10 people in Japan is over 80 years old. You know how productive an 80-year-old is? You know how much money an 80-year-old makes? You know how well an 80-year-old person works? You know how much physical labor they can do? This is a huge... It's a huge weight on the shoulders of the newer generations, those that have to support these aging population. Sometimes you physically need younger people to help these people around. No, we don't have any robots yet. We don't have any androids yet doing that kind of thing. We need people. And there's obviously a huge lacking of that in places like Japan. But I'm not in Japan. Why would I care? I'm not a globalist, right? Are you a globalist? No, of course not. So what the hell do you care about Japan? But let's go into China. Let's see about China. Even 1.4 billion people can't fill all of China's vacant homes, ex-officials admit. Even if you throw 1.4 billion fucking people to this problem, you cannot fill all of the apartments that are right now vacant in China. Why? Because they build way too much in a manner of financial speculation. Yeah, sure. But there's also another problem. There's not enough young people. There's not enough kids being born. This is in China. I'm not in China. What the fuck do I care? I'm not in China. I'm not a globalist. So that's something that is, not my issue. What about this other number? Would this be a problematic thing? And again, The Guardian, you cannot get more radical left-wing than The Guardian. So if The Guardian is admitting this is a concern, maybe you should look into it as well. And this is from 2 years ago. Plummeting sperm counts, shrinking penises, toxic chemicals threaten humanity. So while all the climate change bullshit is something you probably shouldn't fall for, the truth is there's a bunch of chemicals, there's a bunch of pollution in our water, in our air, often being neglected or just not being discussed about enough, and yet that has a massive impact. But whatever the case is, right, I'm pretty sure that all of that microplastic in our water and all of the chemicals they put in our food, especially for the benefit of the big pharmaceuticals and the big food companies, yeah, it's usually about money, right? But at the end of the day, the number is still very much the same, all right? And the number is this. It says that environmental and reproductive epidemiologists at Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in New York finds that sperm count has dropped almost 60% since 1973. 60% since that is a lot. Dropping 60% following the trajectory we're on, Swan's research suggests sperm count could reach zero by 2045. Zero, it says. Let that sink in. That would mean no babies, no reproduction, no humans. Forgive me for asking, why isn't the UN calling an emergency meeting on this right now? You know why, darling? Because they're talking about fucking cow farts and climate change and how you should buy an electric car to save the world. Instead of talking about how the sperm count has dropped damn 60% since 1970, we're going damn extinct. We're just not being capable of reproducing ourselves anymore. But this is not a problem. Well, because the elite is kind of looking to drop that level of population. That's kind of the thing they like doing. But let's just look the other way and suppose, let's assume this is not a big thing. What about Gallup? Gallup is somewhat of a respectable name when it comes to running numbers and polls. It says LGBT identification is up, ticks in US ticks up to 7.1. That is so nice. People that are now, thanks to the progress we've achieved in equality and gender and being more open, and all of these people that had to hide under, inside a closet, now they're feeling free to come out and say, yeah, I'm proud and strong and, well, all of that shit you know about. And this is always good, right? Well, yeah, sure. And the number is this one. How many LGBTs did you have in traditionalists born before 1946? 0.8. It was kind of uncommon. There was that weird dude over there, that queer guy over that. Sure, but 0.8. Baby boomers, 2.6. Generation X, 4.2. Millennials, 10.5. Generation Z, born 1997 to 2003, 20.8%. 20% are LGBT. Have you any idea of how many kids these people have? It is very low. They have almost no kids whatsoever. And if you take into account the genital mutilations that they are involved in, it's even less. But in case you haven't noticed, this generation to it doubles. It keeps on doubling, and this is supernatural. This is not being forced. This is not a sign of social decay and deprivation. No. This is super normal and great, super positive, right? 10, 20%. So how many kids can you expect from these Gen Zs right now, which are almost a quarter LGBT? Good luck with that. Combine that with a plummeting fertility rate, you have what you have right now, which is the final number that I want to discuss in this video, which is visualizing the world plummeting fertility rate. Now, are you a globalist? Am I? Well, no, but you know what? I still do live in planet Earth. And if the global fertility rate is dropping, that kind of affects me too. And my future generations, my kids, my grandkids, they will still live in this same world. So when it comes to this kind of thing, I kind of want to know what's going on globally. And what's going on globally is a massive decline of the fertility rate. We went from 4.19 in 1970 to 3.7 in 1980, 1990, 3.3, for 2000 that was 2.7, 2010 2.5, and 2020 is 2.3, and right now we're kind of there in the limit of 2.1. Why is 2.1 the limit? Well, because as it explains here, in 2020 nearly 2/3 of the world population lived in a region where the fertility rate is below the critical 2.1 threshold, which allows one generation to exactly replace itself. Meaning, since women, and not talking about how you identify, if you dressed up for Halloween once, no, none of that constitutes you being a woman. Talking about the only kind of women there are, real women. So real women need to have, in average, 2.1 kids. Someone could have 0, someone could have 5 or 10, but in average, in a very globalist way, which is the way in which you should address this, in that globalist way, if globally speaking we don't have 2.1, we are fucked. If we don't have a replacement rate of 2.1, our population starts shrinking. You could still continue growing at this point when you have 2.1, mostly because people are also living longer. So you will have old people, like, oh, we're doing great. We're still having more kids being born. Yes, but it's not enough to replace that aging population that is already dying, all right? So when you look at these numbers, you should be very worried. You should be very scared of every one of these that doesn't have 2.1. India has 2.1. With the amount of people they have, with the culture they have 2.1. Everyone else is fucked. Absolutely, totally fucked. We're all fucked. Europe is fucked. Russia is fucked. Latin America is fucked. United States is fucked. We're all literally fucked because 1.7, 1.6, 1.4 doesn't matter. It's not 2.1. And if it's not 2.1, you're aging. And aging is only what happens before you start dying. And when you start dying, you start shrinking. If you don't have a 2.1 to sustain that, you're not growing. You're just sustaining with 2.1. Less than 2.1, you will start dying off. You will start less than 2.1. It means you're going extinct. The only couple African countries that have that is simply not enough. I mean, good for them. Great for whatever country this is. This is right here. Someone here has 7. Nice, good for you. And probably a very impoverished country. But regarding fertility, yeah, you're okay. But it's not enough globally speaking. Even if you export these people that probably you don't want, but if you export these people, it's still not enough to sustain the population of the planet. What it goes down to this is the argument that they make against Elon Musk. Experts say that won't happen. Okay, is that really true, or are we being gaslit? Because we are. We are being lied to our faces. Look at this article, for example. A Business Insider. Elon Musk says population collapse is more dangerous than global warming. Experts say that won't happen. Okay, explain. How is it that it won't happen? Since this number is set on stone, you cannot argue that every 30 years we're losing a point. Okay, every 30 years, if you go from 3.3 in 1990 to 2.3 in 2020, you drop one entire point in 30 years. That means that in another 30 years, I'm in the same spot. I'm with 1.3 by 2050. It's going to be 1.3. And by 2080, I'm at basically 0. By 2080, you're at 0 fertility in this planet, in planet Earth, the same planet you and I live in, okay? But we're being told that's not a problem. Okay, great, I was wrong. Let's listen at this explanation. Although there are countries that have declined population as a result of, and notice how they bullshit us with there's some countries instead of it's the entire damn planet that's going through this. No, some countries, overall the world population is still growing and is likely to do so, although at a slower and slower rate until the end of the century, says Professor Alice Reed, director of Cambridge Group. And yes, right, she's correct, still growing, but at an aging population and with a drop in fertility rate. And by the time we reach 2080, that fertility rate will, yes, you will have more population than now. You will have maybe 8 billion people, but you will have 0 new people being born. From 2080, give or take, you will start seeing people just drop dead and no one there to replace them. So even before we reach that point of 2080, we're seeing an aging population, an older population that is less physical capable, that is, just not good enough for the economy, besides the point of going extinct. Reed says it's in part due to the phenomenon called population momentum. Yeah, that's a good word, which means that even when women are having less, notice how they lie to us. They're having less than 2 children on average. Population keeps growing because large cohorts of women already born continue large numbers of birth. No, it's because people are living longer. So yeah, you will live to 80, 90. Global population decline is therefore still some way off and is likely to happen gradually when it does take place. This can hardly be seen as a catastrophe for civilization. Stop lying. Stop gaslighting us. Stop bullshitting us. Global population decline is therefore still some way off. 2080, less than 100 years, we start going extinct. That is not something to be worried about, and is likely to happen gradually. So we're going to be dying off gradually. We're going to be going extinct gradually, so we shouldn't worry about. These people are monsters. They are demonic entities. They're not real people. Someone with any kind of education that is capable of gaslighting and bullshitting you in this way has no fucking soul. Dr. Peter Matanle, an expert in East Asian social and cultural geography, agrees low birth rates will not cause a population collapse. No, it's not. It will not cause a population collapse. It will just cause people to keep dying and not being born, so we will just go extinct. But it's not going to be a collapse. It's going to be a extinction level event. Populations will age and shrink steadily. So it's not a collapse. It just means that populations will age and shrink steadily, and they may result in a number of collective benefits. So they lied to us. They told us it wouldn't happen, but then they tell us that when it does happen, when we start, quote unquote, quoting here, shrinking steadily, that's going to be good. There's going to be collective benefits. They pair common chimps with those given by 3 demographics to CNN. What are the benefits? Lower birth rates could be a good thing. Okay, so we're dying as a species, so that's good, okay? Yeah, both lower fertility and smaller population should be celebrated rather than feared, Reed said, adding lower birth rates are often tied to increased education of women, greater gender equality, and higher living standards. So don't worry about going extinct. Women are getting better education, I guess, when you're dying off, and there's going to be more equality, guys. We will go extinct. Now they're not arguing against that. They're just telling you that going extinct is a good thing for them. They're getting rid of all the poors, all of the dark-skinned people they don't like. You know, they say they do, but they really don't. So if we could manage this to just start shrinking, and we could finally end up with the kind of people we do like, all of the globalists, all of the, extreme wealthy elites, and those would be the ones having kids on their own and just keeping a few, a couple million slave labor and allowing them to have a few kids here and there, and then maybe forcing them to have some so as to sustain our slave workforce. That's gonna be something that could be beneficial for all of us, all of those of us in charge. It would be a retrogressive step to force women to have children they don't want to have, and this would lead to unhappier societies with poor health and other negative outcomes. Going extinct is actually great. Reed said aging populations do pose social challenges, but the answer isn't to hike up the birth rates. Dear God, no. Why would we stop the extinction level event that is going on? If people stay healthier for longer in their life, they can keep working longer. So work until you're fucking 90 years old. That is a plan. Change in the nature of work and economic shift away from an emphasis on economic growth would also help. Reed also disputes MUSK claim that low birth rates are a bigger risk to civilization than global warming. Oh, right, because the undisputable fact that we will go extinct by 2080 with no new kids being born. We will literally have no new kids being born by 280 to 100 to 2100. No, that's not something that should be concerning. She said that while her field of expertise is in climate change, she's convinced that scientific consensus that global warming is a real danger with potential catastrophic effects for human civilization as well as global ecosystems. Right. It's not concerning that by 2080 there's a fertility rate of 0. Yes, you will have an aged population of 8 billion, but you will have 0 fertility by 2080 according to these numbers, but that should not concern you. You shouldn't be worried about having reached extinction level event like in the Children of Men movie, that no new kids being born. That shouldn't worry you that according to the solid data we have, we will reach that point probably in the lifetime of someone that is already being born right now. You should be worried about, climate change. Enough of this bullshit. know what's happening and prepare accordingly, because these people want this to happen. They've wanted this all along. That's why they do what they do with food, with drugs, with everything we know they're doing. They want to have this. They want to start reducing the population until they have a number they like, until they have their little utopia with a handful of slaves and the world only for the elite. Guys, that's it for now. See you in our next video. Take care.